It's interesting, a lot of the things that are impacting our environment now are not new. They've been around for a long, long time, and perhaps they're just now coming to a point where people are having to deal with them. What a client is defining as of value to them is forcing firms to look at where they are in their CAS practice and where they might find more value so that they're not replaced with other organizations that are coming in, processing the transactions, and doing it at a far less cost than what CPA firms can do. It's kind of forcing them to take that extra step to provide a little more value and creating more stickiness with the client and the firm.
Another trend I think that we're seeing, and I think we see it everywhere, but we're definitely seeing it across the accounting and finance space and in the CAS practice space, is automation and AI. Everything is becoming so streamlined. It has to be done quicker. It has to be done more efficient. Things like data entry, bank reconciliations, even report generation is now so different than what it has been. And it's just becoming faster and faster and more readily available than it was before.
I think right now, there are a few key mega trends that are really driving some of the transformation we're seeing in the client advisory services space. The first is really the expectation around the role of the Office of the CFO and the accounting and finance function as a whole. There's really a lot more that organizations are looking to out of their finance function beyond just the numbers, thinking about how the business is operating, looking for more insights around the business to help inform strategy, decisions, and execution. The other thing that we're really seeing is the skill set needs that are starting to evolve for finance professionals, and really that role starting to stretch again to align with some of those new expectations around the other type of skill sets that finance professionals need to have related to understanding organization, technology, and other types of strategy to help those companies that they serve. The third is around the digital transformation of the finance and accounting function overall. So sometimes this is referred to as autonomous finance or agile finance, but it's really driving the streamlined processing and really faster data to decision making with all the data that's available today to the finance and accounting functions.
The other thing is educating inside of the firm on what CAS is and what CAS isn't. I spent 13 years in that space, and we were still having the same conversations with people outside of CAS practice. They just don't get it. They still think it's a bookkeeping practice and a cleanup for tax.
A lot of CAS practices have been birthed out of bookkeeping or tax practices, or firms have borrowed from those practice areas to establish a CAS practice. There hasn't really been a sort of career path for a CAS professional. And so the management and finance accounting skill sets oftentimes aren't meeting the level of the demand that firms want to deliver to clients when you start talking about controllership and CFO level services. And so firms have to be really intentional about building a curriculum to help those skill sets become more prominent in their staff so that they're able to service those clients through CAS. I'd say another challenge is around getting alignment internally with firm strategy and how you want to build the practice. And so a lot of the opportunities that exist in CAS require firms to think differently about how they're structured, about how they compensate, about how they incentivize and segment and define roles and responsibilities. And a lot of that's a foreign concept to a traditional firm that's been set up and structured and very successful around traditional practice areas for so many years. So we're moving into an era where not only is this about understanding the technology and the skill sets, but also some of these challenges that are really inherent to being a CPA firm and the identity of firms as a whole.
We are incredibly successful building the wrong business. We're building the business of high volume, low level complexity transaction work. Now, we have to do that because the advice layers on top of that. But if you want to basically build a competitor for some big player like Amazon, then just keep doing what we're doing, because they're going to come in and take this business that now is worth $1 trillion and come in and say, we'll do all this work for 20 cents on the dollar, because we do it all overseas. We've built a technology infrastructure that does 80% of what you've got people doing, and it will go away. Why? Because we didn't add the single element we can do that no one else does better. We didn't add the advice, because we got so happy making money off the wrong business. And if there's a message we're trying to share with every single one of our firms is build the right business.
There's no universal definition of CAS. That's even within a firm. There's misunderstanding or misinterpretation as to what CAS is and what it isn't. The value that moving into a CAS advisory service, rather than just stopping at the processing of the transactions stage of it, is that think about how important it would be for a client to have you intimately involved, not only in the financial aspect of it, but from a strategy standpoint of things coming down the pike in the industry in which they're working in. Most of our clients doing the accounting or doing the advising of how they can strategize to be more impactful in the industry in which they work, that's not their primary expertise. We need to free up their bandwidth so that they can focus on doing what the primary focus of their industry or their company is, not doing the accounting of it and understanding what those numbers are telling us, not just from a financial standpoint, but from an efficiency standpoint as well.
As we know from the CPA.com CAS benchmarking survey, it is the fastest growing practice area for firms. So that demand, we don't see really slowing down. We actually see it continuing to accelerate. So it's a great opportunity for firms to move into a category where there's a lot of client demand. And I think one of the drivers of that demand is really the role that the profession played coming out of the pandemic, helping businesses navigate business relief. It really woke businesses up to realizing I do have a trusted advisor in my accountant or in my CAS provider or the person I'm working with that can really help me think through more strategic decisions. And so that's prompting more interest in receiving higher level, higher value services beyond maybe just tax or audit or the things that businesses used to typically go to their firms for. And so it's just a great opportunity for firms to capitalize on that. The other thing I think is that we are seeing a lot of new emerging advisory opportunities that firms are looking to pursue. So you are seeing a lot of interest in things like cybersecurity, things like ESG, things like human capital management, all of these other advisory services that firms have a lot of value to deliver to clients. To get that relationship started, it has to start from a place of trust. Well, if you are a firm and you're working with a business and you're working with their data day in and day out, and you're a critical part of the back office operation of that business, you're naturally building that trust. And so the more you deepen that relationship through CAS, the more you have a natural opportunity to introduce some of these other advisory services that you're going to want to move into.